I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org, and if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, voter turnout is almost 40% a true reflection, or are there more to the figures reported? And in the second watch, who will make up the cabinet? For our social media question, we ask, do you believe that voter turnout was more or less than the figures reported? We're asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's I quote.
We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay, good morning, Darren.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, I gather that you will be at the wheels this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the best to you, my brother.
Thank you so much.
Great. The first watch after this break.
Divorce, one of life's most painful paths. Whether you're contemplating it, walking through it, or still healing from it, you're not alone. But here's the real question. What does the Bible really say about divorce? How does faith, healing, and hope show up in the midst of heartbreak? Join our insightful guests, Dr. Paul Bourne and Pastor Christopher Kennedy, as they share biblical truths, practical guidance, and spiritual wisdom for navigating divorce in today's world. This isn't just a conversation, it's a lifeline. Can scripture meet real life struggles? Can grace and truth walk hand in hand? Tune in and find out. Don't forget this week's special feature, Now Time Revelation, when truth becomes illegal and the vehicles that promote this reality. A bold reflection on today's world and the battle for truth. All this and more on The Rock, Tuesday, September 9 at 10 a.m. here on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, following last week's elections on September 3, the voter turnout, as reported by the Electoral Office of Jamaica, was 39.5%. However, with Jamaicans seemingly very engaged in this particular election, there are thoughts as to whether the reported 39.5% represents the true voter turnout. Well, to give us their views in this regard, we have online Glasspool Brown, Director of Elections, and Don Anderson, pollster. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. Good morning to all your listeners. Glad to be on your program.
Great. I begin with you, Glaston Brown. Last week after the election day, the Gleaner reported that a former director of elections believes, and I quote, Jamaica's reported voter turnout is misleading as the current voters list is significantly overinflated, with names that should have been removed long ago. End of quote. What's your response to that claim, Mr. Brown?
Um, Morning again. The issue, as was highlighted, is more centered around the base on which is used to calculate the voter turnout.
Mm-hmm.
The voter turnout is based on the actual vote cast on the day, as a percentage of the number of persons on the list. We operate in Jamaica what is known as a continuous registration. The last renumeration exercise was done in 1998. That's roughly 27 years ago. So what we have been doing is adding to the list. Including that list is a number of persons who no longer resides in Jamaica because they have migrated, and there are
Mm-hmm.
some amount of persons who are still dead, who have died. And there are also a number of persons who got registered not because they wanted or have an interest in being a part of the process, but also to get an ID,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the only ID in Jamaica that's available free of cost. So what you have over the years, we have been adding persons. We have been removing a number of persons from the list who have died of. In fact, over the last 5 years, we have removed in the next close to 130, 140,000 persons who have died from the list. So we have been cleansing it, but there's still some amount of persons on that list that no longer resides in Jamaica to a certain extent. So from that aspect of it, you could say the denominator that is used is somewhat inflated. So when you express the percentage of persons who actually took part in the process, it might not necessarily reflect the true picture in terms of persons who want to be a part of the process. To correct that would mean that you'd have to maybe do another enumeration exercise. Maybe we need to do it more frequently, as against what have been happening in the past.
Yeah. So, based on what you're saying, you tend to agree with the former director.
Well, the former director is quite aware because he was involved in the process. He knows how we are. I don't think he was being critical. He was just pointing out stuff. I don't think he was being critical of the
Mm-hmm.
list. What he was pointing to or bringing to attention that yes, one has to be careful when based on how you calculate voter turnout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In terms of, because we use what the number of persons on the list. So you can't remove person from the list unless you're so advised and you get the documentation that, for example, a person have died.
Yes.
Because you don't want to remove person on the day of election, somebody just automatically is resurrected.
Yes.
So you have to be careful. And I think we got a legal opinion that the only basis we can remove person from the list is that they have died. So it's a little bit difficult on our structure to remove persons who have migrated. And in fact, how do we know at EOJ that the person have migrated without solid information? So I don't think he was being critical of the process, what was basically highlighted, because
Observation.
he had,
Yeah.
been in the system, because he was in the system for a number of years, so he's quite aware
Yes.
of
Yes.
how our list is structured.
Yes. Donna Anderson, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yes, I have listened carefully and read what former director says about the voters list.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, at this point, would be that in 2020 election, we had 1,913,000 approximately registered to vote. And in the 2025 election, we had 2,077,000, mash. So that these are new people. So there's no question that the registered voters list is growing.
Mm-hmm.
It must be new persons. Perhaps, and I have no doubt, I agree, accept what the current director says, that the list need to be cleaned. But I would like to think that the excess, call it the excess, persons who have died, persons who have migrated, etc., ought not to be that many. And that the 200,000, approximately 160,000 people were added since 2020 are people who have registered and new voters, new persons who have not new voters, new persons who have registered to vote. All right. So that's an important consideration. But, the percentage that is reported is a function of that number of persons who are registered.
Mm-hmm.
and therefore it's a variable. If there's a significant increase in registration, then it's going to absolutely reflect on the percentage turnout. So I'd like to look at it from the perspective of the actual numbers of persons who vote. And one point I want to make here is that in 1980, more persons voted than voted in the 2025 election.
Was that
45 years
80
later.
something percent?
Yeah, but of course, again, it was at a point in time where you registered when an election was called. Now, as current director Glasspool says, there's a continuous registration process. So you register during the 5 years, and then when an election is called, obviously you tot up the numbers. So the actual number who voted, to me, is probably, for the moment, more critical than the percentage, because that is such a variable based on the number of persons registered. And the point is that in 1980, 45 years ago, we had about 860,000 persons who voted. In 2020, for example, we had 715,000. And in 2025, we had, I think, just about 820,000 persons. So to me, that's the issue of greater concern, that persons aren't coming onto the process to vote.
Yes. As you mentioned, that Don Anderson, 2 weeks before the election, your polls reportedly revealed that just over half of Jamaica's voting population was planning to vote.
Right.
What are we to make of the fact that EOJ reported 39.5%?
Well, I put it even more starkly. We did a poll that we reported on 1 week before the election, the field work was the 22nd to the 26th of August. And in that poll, 55% of the persons we interviewed said they were going to turn out to vote. And this was an improvement of 5 percentage points on the poll we did earlier in August. I've consistently made the point that voter intent and voter turnout is always different. There's always a sometimes significant fall off in the persons who actually turn out to vote for all kinds of reasons. All right. And therefore, we didn't anticipate that it would be more than 47%. I think that is what I was quoted as saying. 47% was what we expected. So we're extremely surprised at 39.6%. But then what we are reporting is the number of persons who voted and not necessarily the persons who turned out to vote, because I don't know if Director Glasspool can quantify it, but I imagine that there are a significant number of persons, relatively so, that did not get to vote, and that were they allowed to vote or were they got a chance to vote, that 39.6% would be probably more like 43%. That's my guesstimate. As a statistician, I shouldn't say that, but that's based on what I'm hearing. It could probably be more like 43%.
Voted vis-a-vis those who turned up to vote.
Right.
Okay, we're up on a break. I'm going to allow Glasspool Brown to respond to that on the other side of the break. Soon be back.
Hey, 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 small people crew. It's me, Auntie Vashti, and I have a brand new lesson for you. Join me this Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. on the Small People Show, where little voices make big sounds. Inside EduFantastic Tuesdays, we make learning super fun. We're diving into maths, English, science, history, and so much more. Don't miss out. Tune in this and every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. with me, Auntie Vashti, only on the family station, Love 101.
Shake and go, come at you, shake and go. Upon the field, have to increase the tempo. Come at you, shake and go. Flavors real nice, nutrition for your lifestyle. Come at you, shake and go. The net we are kick. Schoolboy football season a keep. Come at you, shake and go. Try the delicious new flavors today: chocolate, vanilla, peanut, and butter pecan. Come at you, shake and go.
Don't let freshness ditch you when you need it the most. Wash your clothes with Downy Softener to keep dazzling everyone around you from day to night. Try Downy Softener now.
We're in the hurricane season and the hottest time of the year. But no worries, Lanco has you covered. By the way, you're covered with Lanco Cool Guard or Urethanizer roof coating yet? Use Lanco roof coatings to waterproof your roof and also benefit from a cooler home with our advanced Thermoflex technology. Get 10 to 20% discount on Lanco Urethanizer and Cool Guard roof coating island-wide this hurricane season. Lanco, your waterproofing expert.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the first watch. We are looking on the topic voter turnout. Is almost 40% a true reflection? And in so doing, we have online Don Anderson, pollster, and Gladstone Brown, Director of Elections. Before the break, Gladstone Brown, Don Anderson had raised the issue of those who voted vis-a-vis those who actually turned up to vote but did not get to vote. Want to respond to that?
Yeah, I've taken note of comment from Don. What I would say though, that didn't get a chance to vote is different from taking a decision that you can't be patient and wait in the line to cast your ballot. It's a little bit different from not getting a chance to vote. The chance was always there. The process allows for voting to take place for 10 hours in the course of the day. If you are patient enough and you remain in line, even after 5 p.m., you'll be allowed to cast your ballot. In fact, a few of our stations remain open beyond 5 p.m.
So stick up in right there, Mr. Brown. I'm so sorry. I think there are reports of some persons who were actually in the line, but they were not allowed to continue after 5 p.m. Were those reports true?
I heard that number, but we operate an election center. I can tell you, this election center continued up to 6 o'clock, and nobody reported that.
Mm-hmm.
I've asked the organization who did make that comment to provide me with information, provide me the facts or so that we can investigate it. But our record did not indicate so. So we still await for them to provide that data. This is certainly from where I operated on election day, nothing was brought to attention in election center, which I chaired on the day that persons were being there, because our training is to every presiding officer and every supervisor that whoever is in the line, and the law allows it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in the line, you should be allowed to vote. Based on my information that I've gotten, we have not got that information that indicate otherwise. So I'm waiting for the organization. I wrote to them on last week, Thursday, to provide me with the facts and to tell me exactly where it happened so I can do my own investigation. That's where it is. So in terms of earlier on, I don't want necessarily to comment on what we hear, but I prevent it because it's a little bit difficult to quantify how much person would have impacted that way based on the comment that is that person weren't allowed to cast the ballot. So I wouldn't necessarily want to comment on that because I prefer to be able to quantify a number rather than comment on it.
Mm-hmm. There are also reports about persons who simply just got fed up with waiting so long that in terms of the system seem to have been slower in some PDs.
We got that concern. We operated 7,294 police stations across the island. There was some challenge in some lines that we pictured in terms of, and that concern came. We recognized that concern. That person was saying that the line was moving a little bit slow. But there are a number of things that certainly the prior report that I've been getting impacted on those locations. For example, a number of person came without your ID card, and that impact on the timeliness of the processing.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you come with that card and add another 5 minutes, it adds up over time. And so it could have impacted on it. There were some other issues. As I said, we have started an investigation. What we want to do is to try to pinpoint exactly what contributed to those lines that moved a little bit slow. and then see how we take corrective action going forward. We always reviewing what we do after the election and hopefully trying to improve as we go along. So we have started that investigation to that web. But suffice to say, there were a number of stations across the island that we did not get such complaint.
Yeah. Don Anderson, your response to that response?
No. I mean, it's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I probably should have been more specific in terms of persons who were in the line, got frustrated, left. We hear instances like that. I had to persuade my gardener, for example, who was waiting in a line up in Golden Spring for about 4 hours. And he said he was about to leave if he didn't get through in another half an hour. And he said there are several people like that. I encouraged him. I said, listen, man, you're in the line. Don't worry about having to come back to work. You stay. So he took the whole day. All right. Fortunately, he had I guess, a considerate employer. I told him, stay and vote. I don't think many persons who were in that position would have had that flexibility, and therefore they probably turned away and didn't get a chance to vote. So I gather that there were instances like that. And I really readily sympathize with the electoral office, because I know quite a few people turned up without the proper ID, meaning the voter's ID. I didn't have mine, I can tell you, but I didn't have any problem getting to vote once I, was able to verify who I was. But I imagine there are several people who were either short on patience and, as the director said, and that type of thing. So that would have depressed the number of persons who actually voted. The extent to which it took place is difficult for anybody to say. Again, though, I believe that Cafe did report on a number of polling stations where, even though persons were in the line at 5 o'clock, they weren't allowed to vote. This is what, again, Director Glasspool is speaking to. He'll have to check that out. But there were those reports. So I don't think one can turn a blind eye to the reports either anecdotally or from an institution like CAFE that there are people who did not get a chance to vote, even though they were at the polling station to vote. And that we don't know what that number is. But it certainly would mean it is not 39.5%. But more than that.
Yes. The elephant in the room is voter apathy. As far as you're aware, what are the possible and probable reasons for this, beginning with you, Don Anderson?
Well, I don't even have to guess on that, because we have done every poll that we do. Maybe 98% of the polls we do. When we ask people, are you going to go to vote, we get a yes, no answer. And those who say no, we say, well, why are you not going to go to vote? I made a presentation to the electoral office on the basis of accumulation of responses. We got over maybe 100 polls of this nature on this particular issue. And I'll read out what we condensed them into 9 different factors, main factors. Too much corruption in politics. No difference between the parties. None performing effectively. No confidence in them. Make too many unfulfilled promises. Politics too dirty. All politicians are the same. None of them helping the people. People will not benefit. And these are then, we have condensed these. There are other, different reasons that people give, but we have condensed them into this group of 9. So it's very clear that some people don't think it's apathy. Apathy meaning I'm just not interested. And if you listen to a forum that was held with a number of young persons, 18 to 29, I believe, maybe 2-3 weeks ago before the election. They're saying it's not that we are apathetic, It's not that we're disinterested. People haven't reached out to us. So that's another element to consider. But I believe that by and large, people are dissatisfied with the process, with the political process, with the politicians, with political parties. And for that reason, you find an increasing number of persons can't be bothered, and they just and that includes a lot of people who are registered to vote and who have voted in the past. They say, can't bother. It's not going to make any difference. And that is something that is worrying, because that number has been growing. And I made reference to the fact that in 1980 we had more people voting than in 2025.
What happened in 1980? Why that was so, though?
Well, that's not the highest year of our voting. But let's use that as a point of reference in terms of length of time. 45 years later, we had a higher turnout, I believe, let me see what election that was. In the 2011 election, we had 877,000 persons. in the 2016, roughly 873,000 persons. So we've had years, but we fall back to 820,000. I'm rounding numbers, 820,000 persons in 2025. In 1980, of course, was a year that we describe it as the bloodiest election ever.
Right.
So we had, and it was a year, of course, where people registered because the election was called. We had 860,000, 861,000 approximately voting then. Bloodiest election.
But it was also a long time between the announcement of the election and actual election that year.
Mm-hmm.
Could that be a factor? I'm just wondering.
We don't know.
No,
I don't like to speculate without it.
I think we may really into supporting what Don says and more what was happening at the time. You remember there was a heightened political interest and centered around ideology at the time.
Mm.
And it could have spurred a number of persons turn out at the time. It was a very heightened election at the time, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. So are you saying that it's not the same line of demarcation in terms of the ideology now between both major parties?
Well, you notice that one of the reasons given by people is that none of them are different.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you can say that they are clear ideological.
Or both are corrupt.
Well, that's what they're saying also.
Gospel Brown, you wanted to say more?
No, I just want to just ditto what Don said. Clearly, that level of difference is no longer there if you follow the polls that have been taken away in recent times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And any other reasons, Gospel Brown, that you have picked up why this voter apathy seems to be increasing?
Yeah, a critical thing, I think, though, my personal view is that I think a number of persons go to the polls because of who they're voting for. So it bears a factor in terms of who is the candidate, what is the message of the candidate and the party. And that can impact on it to a certain extent. So in addition to what Don has said in terms of his findings, that could play a role in terms of people turning out.
So what could and should be done, beginning with you, Gospel Brown, going forward as a nation, political parties, the electorate?
Well, what we have started to do from our end is, although our role is mainly to manage and execute elections.
Yes.
That's our role. But what we have been doing from our end is begin to sensitize persons in terms of the importance of being involved in the process. We have an arrangement now that we go into the schools. We do some sessions with the school at that level.
We mean in the EOJ?
The EOJ, yes.
Okay.
Going to the schools. We have gone into schools so undertake their elections so as to sensitize them to build that interest. We have been into prep school, high schools, universities, and so on, at no cost to the school as such.
Good.
We use another means to begin to sensitize them at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So for them to be so attracted to the process. So we have started from that aspect of it into more to more from an educational point of view, as best as possible. At one point in time, we started a program we have developed what we know as the Democracy Passport, which is with a document that we tend to give out to persons, outlining the history of this opportunity that we have to that freedom that we have to so involved in an election or to involve in a democratic process. So these are some of the things that we're doing, more so from an educational point of view.
Yeah. Don Anderson, 30 seconds.
I give credit to the EOJ for that because I think they're doing something for the nation that's really outside of their purview.
Yeah.
Because you have to address the issue from the causal factors. And when you look at all the reasons why people aren't turning out to vote, none of them talk about the electoral office, right? In fact, the electoral office is seen as doing a good job,
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing rests clearly at the feet of the political parties, politicians, because they're the ones that are now being identified spontaneously, by persons as the reason why they don't go to vote. And I think that's where the answer lies. Political parties have to basically look at themselves and then find ways and means by which you can appeal to those persons who are not currently now interested in voting or apathetic to voting or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But political parties have to address that particular problem.
Got to leave it there. Gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us. Have a safe and productive day.
All the best.
You too. Good.
Listeners, the Morning Watch will return in just a moment.
Start your journey with a JN Small Business Loan with small business loans as little as $10,000 and up to $4 million. The time by JN Small Business Loan is
7:31 on Love 101 FM, the family station.
Mama work hard, for real. She do the most to send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. I further my education and I make mama proud.
Save so you can make the par, travel far, graduate like a star.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
If you want $10,000 to spend this summer, what would you spend it on?
Something nice. I'd book our family dream vacation, theme park, or an all-inclusive.
I'd pay off my student loan and start my master's program.
I'd go shopping and get a whole new wardrobe.
They've got plans. What's yours? Use your NCB Visa credit card. Every 25,000 Jamaican dollars you spend is a chance to win $10,000. Something nice for the summer. Promotion ends September 14. Conditions apply. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act of Jamaica.
Did you know that many girls still lack access to period products and that they can miss up to 1 year of school? But together, we can change that reality. The End Period Poverty campaign, sponsored by Always, is here. From August 1st to September 30th, for every pack of Always products you purchase, we donate a pad to girls in need. Go to your local supermarket and help our girls have access to period products.
Get your inspiration for the day. Join us on the morning.
It's time to fill your cup with a blend of hope and inspiration. Join me, Nadine Blair, weekdays, Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Morning Express, your mid-morning sanctuary on Love 101. We'll take you through carefully chosen music to soothe your soul, with thoughtful words to uplift your spirit, programs and features for growth and upliftment. Tune in and be encouraged. Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. for Morning Express with Nadine Blair, right here on your family station, Love 101.
We will take you higher on the Morning Express. On the Morning Express. Oh, yes.
Be heard, be seen by your audience on Love 101 Radio and on social media. Call Love 101 for advertising rates that fit your needs. Exposure for your event, your business, concerts, church activity, civic events, seminars and conferences, job vacancies, specials, and more. Let Love 101 help you get your information out there. Call Love 101 FM now and talk with our sales and marketing experts and get the reach you need. Call 876-968-9596 or 876-968-9597 and ask for our sales and marketing department Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. or email love101fm@gmail.com. Love 101 FM, radio and social media platforms, making it happen for you.
Calling all gospel artists. Are you looking for your break in the gospel music industry? Are you a big sensation but not getting enough recognition? Well, submit your name and song via our email to the producer at love101.org. That's producer at love101.org. You and your music just might be featured inside music on a Friday at 2:15 p.m. We are the family station, Love 101, and we are celebrating music, family, and love.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. Action taken against rural school bus driver for speeding violations, says Vaz. Also, smooth start to new school term in St. Anne. We also see that there is mixed reaction as St. Andrew High bans baby hairs. Calabar High bars 30 students from school over dress code breaches, and SSP Wayne Cameron removed as POA chairman. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Coming up next, we'll share some of the feedback from our social media question. Do you believe that voter turnout was more or less than the figures reported? We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp 876-997-3125. We'll be right back.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now join Darren for a look at how our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp friends answered today's question. Do you believe that voter turnout was more or less than the figures reported? Darren?
All right, so we have some comments here from WhatsApp. Monica says, if persons were in line at polling stations before 5 p.m. but were not allowed to vote, then the voter turnout numbers is not a true reflection of the day. Cherry from Spanish Town says, good morning, blessings everyone. I believe voters' turnout was lower as persons in some communities across Jamaica are still waiting on promises to be fulfilled. Also, if one party MP start a project, why not complete to win or lose? Another burning issue, when a MP lose, they need to be active in their constituency. Right now, I still don't know how the losing MP and its burning issue for many years. Okay. And another listener, Olga, says, some people didn't vote because of a change of addresses recently and was not able to return to the past resident to vote. Right.
Okay. Interesting comments there. Thanks to those who took the time out to make those responses. And so we segue into the second watch. And the Andrew Holness-led Jamaica Labour Party has secured a third term in office. Of course, this marks a historic first for the Jamaica Labour Party, as 3 consecutive mandates had eluded the previous leaders. Now, the incumbent government campaigned on a raft of accomplishments and appealed to its supporters to choose Jamaica. But now, a cabinet must be named. There are views all around who will constitute that cabinet amid talks of retirement and political legacy. Well, to offer their thoughts in this regard, we have joining us Dr. Nadine Spence, social commentator and a student services and development manager at the University of the West Indies, as well as Kevin O'Brien Chang, social commentator. Good morning to you both.
Hi, everybody.
Greetings. Dr. Spence? Not hearing you, Dr. Spence. All right. She's on, but still not on in terms of us hearing her. All right. I'll begin with you in the meantime, Kevin O'Brien Chang. And I want to say that before we focus on the specific cabinet positions and portfolios, which we will try to do, generally speaking, what are your wishes for the future cabinet in terms of demographics like age, gender, skill sets? Beginning with you, Kevin O'Brien.
Well, the first main demographic is skill set. You want the best people. I mean, it's not about picking a cabinet because it looks good. A certain amount of women, certain amount of men, age, and all that. Those are considerations, yes. But from the national point of view, you want the best people in the best position, suiting their skill sets. For example, Favor Williams is not the most exciting speaker in the world, but she is pretty good at her numbers. She has very good qualifications. And in finance ministry, that's what you need. Skill with numbers, not fancy talkers. So given that you want the best skill set there, I don't really expect much change. The cabinet we have had last time got a mandate from the people, GLP 135 seats to 28, that's a mandate. The people have said this is the government we want to continue, or the party we want to continue in government. And the cabinet was part of that success. And I really don't see...
What about the gender though, Kevin O'Brien Chang? You want to see any balance there?
Well, as I said, it is the skill set that's more important. The gender, you're going to put people of a certain gender there because of the gender, even though they're not as good as somebody else. I don't think so. Yeah, you want a gender balance. If two people are equally balanced, you might say, okay, maybe put more women in if they're equally balanced. But if one is better than the other, it doesn't matter what gender they are.
Or age, or age for that matter.
Or age, no. Like I said, you want the best person for the job. But now age is a different thing. People slow down with age. Less energy, And like everything else, politics requires energy. And, you want brains too, and honesty, all that stuff. But energy is a part of how much you can get done.
Hearing you loud and clear, Kevin O'Brien. I want to bring in Nadine Spence before the break. Dr. Spence.
Yeah.
Yes, demographics. Yeah. Any concerns there? Any wishes on your part for the new cabinet?
The JLP now has less people to work with, but they also have some talented women. Yeah, I heard you on the women issue. We already had Marlene Malahou Fort. We have Kamina Johnson-Smith. We have Faval. We know now that Audrey Marks is going to be in, and Dana. So the JLP had already some very talented women, and then there are some young women that they now have to bring in. Kerencia, who was the darling of the campaign period, and Tova, who has demonstrated that she has the intellectual chops. The woman is a lawyer. You have as well Rhoda, who was doing her PhD at the UWI. So they have a talented pool of women from which they can draw to shore up their cabinets. But the JLP really has a good crop of people to choose from all around, men and women across age groups. So for me, it would be good to see Kerencia, Tova, and her name, and Rhoda in as state ministers or junior ministers.
All right. We're up on a break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
The time that Grace could move is
7:45.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
The time by Grace Could Move is...
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station Love 101.
Nothing beats the Love 101 September Bonanza. That's 15% off any advertising package. That's more savings, more spots, and more reach for your business. But don't wait. This offer ends September 30. Call us now at 876-968-9596-7 or email sales&marketing@love101.org. Let's grow together. Conditions apply.
We've seen a lot of our customers make some good moves over the years. Whether it's sharing a hug with a friend you haven't seen in a long time or sharing a meal, Grace has been there. So let's keep making these moments together. Because rest assured, every time you choose Grace, you know you're making a good move.
Always a good move when you're moving with Grace.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And this is the second watch. We're asking who will make up the cabinet? Who will make up the cabinet? And we have online Kevin O'Brien Chang, social commentator, as well as Dr. Nadine Spence, who is also a social commentator. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the first half of this second half, you gave us some names there in terms of persons who you would like or expect to be in the upcoming cabinet. What about those who you'd want or expect to no longer be in the cabinet? Beginning with you, Kevin O'Brien Chan.
Well, like I said, the cabinet performed pretty well. There's nobody
Nobody
I think deserves kicking out. But I would agree with Nadine about the those ladies. They're now all two-term MPs, Kerencia, Rhoda, and Tova. And you know,
Well, it means that somebody going to be kicked out. If you get having these ladies coming in.
Well, no, you can't put them in. There's space for junior ministers of state, you know.
Uh-huh.
Not every minister is a minister of state, so there's space to insert them. And you know, it's an apprenticeship. You do one term as a MP, you do 2 terms. Okay, I'm step it up now. I need some upliftment, you know. And those 3 ladies were certainly stars of the thing. The young ladies that they held their seats. Rhoda fought hard, Tova fought hard, and as Nadine said, she has charisma in droves. You know, she was the star of the show many times there. And you'd expect them to the talents to be given even in greater use on the national stage.
So just
but
to be
again,
clear,
it's hard to. I don't see anybody that has failed deserves kicking out. But these 3 ladies are junior ministers. Kerente, for instance, you could say in culture, you know, she's very culturally vibes and all that. And the other 2 have their talents too. But as I said, I don't see anybody falling to be kicked out, you know, or having to be kicked out. Maybe, you know, maybe some of the older ones might say the Prime Minister, boy, PM tired, ready to step down. But politics is also ego, you know.
Uh-huh.
A special type of personality goes into politics. Politicians, they like the limelight, and the ministries are seen as, you know, giving them cachet and prestige and all that. Few people want to step down from ministries.
What about renewal, though? I mean, you use the word kicked out, and I don't like the terminology, personally speaking.
It's the
But
same
what
thing.
about renewal, though? To renew the life of the party, the vision going forward.
Well, nobody, as I said,
Still nobody.
I'm not an expert, but you just win an election. You want to keep the vibes going well. You don't want to spoil the vibes. So even if later on there might be renewal. Right now, I don't see any rocking of the boat being necessary. And as I said, you have JLP win, they're victorious, they're happy. Why go kick out some people and make some people unhappy? That's how I look at it. But Markio is the only person in the end who makes the decision. Is Andrew Holness.
Yes. Dr. Nadine Spence, your take on that?
With Kevin, I think the JLP took on a significant program of work. And I think that to disrupt a ministry is with a new leader. It costs, it costs with in terms of resources, but it also costs to get a minister up to date with the program of work of a particular ministry. So I don't think we have this thing in Jamaica of saying we want to change a minister, but it doesn't necessarily make the work more efficient or get us to where we want to go or in a more efficient manner. So I would think that things should stay the way they are. I think some people need to be understudied. Clearly, some people are not going to come back in the next election. I think it's hard to see Minister Grange coming back in another election, or Dr. Chang, Desmond McKenzie. Some people are obviously, I think, in my estimation, on their way out. So those people need to be understudied, and people need to prepare to take over. I don't think. And remember, Norman Dunn as a state minister is no longer
No longer
in
there.
there.
Yes.
So I think space has been created, but I think as well.
Is Main one back, right? Gregory Main, or did he lose? I don't have the figures in front of me.
Xavier Main is back.
Yes.
Main is back. Okay, so only Don lost then. Okay.
What about behavioral concerns in the past regime? Is that a factor?
I don't have
like
any.
what behavioral concerns? Like what?
I'm just using that phrase. Everybody behaved themselves. Nobody said anything, did anything untoward.
I don't remember, but maybe you do. I don't remember anybody doing anything untoward.
I don't have any. I think it was a fairly hardworking, stable cabinet that we could rely on to deliver.
Okay. What about the size? Beginning with you, Dr. Spence. Any concerns with the former size of the cabinet vis-a-vis going forward?
What I would like to see is a ministry that is concerned with social transformation, family life, something like that. That some of the issues that people were talking about during the election, about seeing the impact of the transformation in their lives, in their daily lives. I think there needs to be a ministry that is concerned with that, concerned with how the progress that is being made at one level gets transferred down to people's lives beyond the bus, the transportation issues that with the new buses coming in, and so on. There are some people who need more than just a passing presence of the state. The JLP government is the government that believes in less government, but at the same time, I think we're at a stage, and we heard in the election that people want to see, want to get greater direction, greater clarity, greater involvement of some kind of state.
Are you okay with the size, Dr. Spence? The former size of the cabinet?
Yeah, man, I am. I don't have a problem.
Okay.
I don't have a problem. I like the way it was organized, allowed for very efficient, I think, government and management of our affairs.
Kevin O'Brien Chan?
Well, one of Jamaica's greatest issues, most overriding issues, is the marginalization of the males in Jamaica. We're the only country in the world with significantly more illiterate men than illiterate women. The only country with a significant gap. That is one of the biggest things in the country. They talk about the productivity in Jamaica lagging. Well, it's mainly lagging because of the under-education of the men, and that's a huge cultural problem. It's not only a school thing; it's a cultural thing, and maybe a Ministry of Gender Affairs would be in order. Of course, the women seem to think always that they're the oppressed sex. Certainly doesn't apply to
I'm not
Jamaica.
following you, Kevin, because there is a ministry. Is there?
Me not
Huh?
follow Kevin
There's a
either.
ministry,
I know,
Kevin.
I
I'm
know.
not following you.
Of course,
No,
the women are not going to admit it. But if you look at all the
No, it's
statistics,
not a matter of admitting,
Well,
Kevin.
could you hold on, Dr.
Nadine,
Spence? Let him explain. Let
Nadine.
him explain. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm saying is, in my view, one of the overriding problems of Jamaica is the marginalization of the males. They see it in every level.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica has the most female managers in the world. 80% of university graduates are female. The only country that said where you have more illiterate men than women.
Though, Kevin. It's no longer
hold on,
80%.
can I finish,
That
ma'am?
has
Can I
changed.
finish, please? Can I finish, ma'am? And that is one of the problems. The women are ingrained in the thought that females are the oppressed sex. But if you look at the statistics, yes, it applies to most countries in the world. It doesn't apply to Jamaica. And no, we won't admit the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to productivity and lack of education. It's the males who are lagging.
So therefore,
and that problem needs specific targeting. That is my view.
Yes, so in terms of the
serious.
ministries, what are you recommending?
Well, Ministry of Male Empowerment or something
Male
like that.
empowerment.
Something to address the problem in a targeted way.
Okay.
All right.
Which gender affairs is not doing? Is that what you're saying?
No, because they have this narrative in Jamaica that is always a woman oppressed, the females oppressed. But the statistics in Jamaica certainly don't show that.
Hearing you. Dr. Spence, your response.
Yeah, but talking about female oppression is very different from talking about male oppression. It's not a similar thing. What men are experiencing is very different. And so what we talk about is, and the JLP had it in their manifesto, a focus on boys in education. How do we need to change? What do we need to change?
More than education. It's a cultural problem.
Hold on there now, Kevin. Your time to be quiet for the time being.
Perform as well in school. So if you look at the JLP manifesto, they would have talked about an emphasis on improving the prospects of boys in education.
Yes.
As well, you would have seen and you will recognize that the tertiary institutions and the teachers' colleges, for example, are putting out a lot of effort to get more men to, for example, go into teaching and to go into tertiary education, to join HEART and so on. So the issue is not, is very different. I understand that we need a gendered intervention, but the issue is not because men are oppressed. It's because there are certain cultural messages that we give to our boys that have turned out to undermine their performance in the formal system, because men still have more land titles, they still own more businesses, there are still more men who own resources in Jamaica than women. And because women are middle managers, it doesn't mean that women are outnumbering men as CEOs or as startup companies on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. You need to just check out those other statistics. So we need to understand the fullness of that, and that it's not necessarily that we can draw for the same kind of intervention for men and women.
So
and then we always have a reality where we have more men involved in violent crime than women.
Dr. Spence, you're okay. I'm sorry. You're okay with the present emphasis in the Ministry of Gender Affairs.
But remember, gender came out of the idea of a woman's bureau in the ministry was to deal with issues of domestic violence, violence against women, sexual violence, with the fact that women were left out of education for a very long time.
Okay.
It was to address a very specific problem. I've seen over time how governments have responded differently. Like, for example,
got to leave it there, Dr. Spence. So sorry. Yeah, got to leave it there. Thanks both for joining us. Have a safe and productive day.
Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information, how to get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-9596-7. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, returning you to Love in the Morning with Darren Mitchell.
time on Love 101 is 8 o'clock, and my friends, you're now invited to listen to the program Forward in Faith, brought to you by the New Testament Church of God, Bayside, Portmore.
The Lord will return to this earth some sweet day or some